Hello, this is Louise Hay, and I would like to discuss a few ideas with you. I'm a metaphysical counselor, teacher, and healer. I have worked with gay men for a great part of my life. I am now working with several people who have AIDS, and some of them are in remission. The work I do is to help people understand the mental patterns that create their experiences, all of them, the good and the so-called bad, or what I like to call the learning experiences, the opportunities for growth. Some of these ideas may be very new to you, and some of them you may have heard before, but hearing these ideas again will reinforce them for you. I do not heal anyone. I do help people to see themselves in a different perspective, and this viewpoint begins the healing process. Some of the things I am suggesting to you may sound very simplistic, and you may wonder how this can really heal you. But all I am asking you to do is to try it. Use these suggestions in addition to the work you are doing with your doctor. It will be helpful to both of you. Take a nice deep breath, and if possible, allow yourself to be in a comfortable position while you hear this tape. Just let these ideas wash over you. Those that are right for you will become part of you. It doesn't matter whether you understand them all or not, or if they make any sense right now. Just let yourself play this tape over and over, even if you are not actually listening to the words. Your subconscious mind will hear and record everything. The word incurable, which is so frightening to so many people, means that particular condition cannot be cured by any outer means, and we must go within to find the cure. I believe that all illness is self-created. Not that we say, I want to have this illness, but we do create a mental atmosphere where this disease can grow and flourish. I believe that we are each 100% responsible for every experience in our lives, the best and the worst. We all create our experiences by the thoughts we think and the words we speak. That which we believe becomes true for us. Every thought we think and every word we speak creates our future. Words are powerful and go into our subconscious mind. Whatever we choose to believe becomes true for us. However, no matter what we think or believe, our beliefs are only thoughts, and thoughts can be changed. Even self-hatred is only hating a thought we have about ourselves. The thought, I'm not good enough, produces a feeling in the gut or the heart or the throat or the back of the neck, and then we react to that feeling. But if we change the thought, the feeling must go. If you continuously think, I am wonderful, you cannot have the feelings that go with, I am not good enough. I find that resentment, criticism, and guilt cause more problems in our bodies and in our lives than anything else. These feelings come from blaming others and not taking responsibility for our own lives. It has been my experience that the very bottom line for everyone is self-hatred and guilt, to one degree or another, being not good enough. But for whom, and according to whose standards? Remember, the point of power is always in the present moment. This means that what we are experiencing in our lives today, right now, we have created, often on a subconscious level, by our thoughts, words, and beliefs of yesterday, last week, last month, last year, or even 5, 10, or 20 years ago. We can't change that, but we can begin to change what we choose to believe and say and think today, right here and right now. And this will change our experiences for tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, etc. It is also important that we release the past and be at least willing to forgive. We may not know how to forgive, and we may not want to forgive, but the very fact that we say we are willing to forgive begins the process. Love is always the answer to healing, and the road to love is through forgiveness. Forgiving and releasing resentment will dissolve even cancer, and yes, even AIDS. Now this may sound simplistic, however, I know that it works. When people come to me with a problem, I don't care what it is, poor health, lack of money, unfulfilling relationships, or stifled creativity. There is only one thing I ever work on, and that is loving the self. I find that when we really love and accept and approve of ourselves exactly as we are, then everything in life flows. It's like little miracles are everywhere. Our health improves, we attract more money, our relationships become much more fulfilling, and we begin to express ourselves in creatively fulfilling ways. Loving the self, to me, begins with never, never, ever, ever criticizing ourselves for anything. Criticism locks us into the very pattern we are trying to change. Understanding and being gentle with ourselves helps us to move out of it. Remember, you have been criticizing yourself for years, and it hasn't worked. Let's try approving of ourselves and see what happens. Self-approval and self-acceptance, right here and right now, are the keys to positive changes. There is a healing power of love within each one of us, and when we are ready to make changes in our lives, we attract that which we need to help us. The very fact that you have discovered me and this tape means that you are already in the process of healing yourself. Something inside of you has shifted, and the healing process has already begun. You might say that to yourself. I have already begun the healing process, and I am getting well. When we want to begin to change a condition, the very first thing to do is to say so, literally. Say, I am willing to release the pattern within me that is creating this condition. Say that with me now. I am willing to release the pattern in me that has created this condition. You can say that to yourself over and over every time you think of your illness. The minute you say it, you are stepping out of the victim class. You are no longer helpless. You are acknowledging your own power. You are saying somehow, I may not understand it, but somehow I am beginning to understand that I created this, and now I take my own power back, and I am going to release it and let it go. I myself have had cancer. This was about 7 years ago, when I had already been doing healing work for several years. And believe me, the first thing I did was to go into total panic, just like everyone else. But being aware that cancer is a pattern of deep resentment that is held for a long time, until it literally eats away at the body, I knew I had a lot of mental work to do. If I had an operation to get rid of the cancer and did not clear the mental pattern that created it, then they would just keep cutting Louise until there was no more Louise to cut. If I had the operation and cleared the mental pattern that was causing the cancer, then it would not return. When cancer or any other illness returns, I don't believe that it is because the doctors did not get it all out, but rather the patient has made no mental changes and so just recreates the same illness. I also believe that if I could clear the mental pattern that created the cancer, then I would not need the operation, and so I bargained for time and was grudgingly given 3 months. In that time, I worked with a teacher to help me clear the patterns of resentment that I had held from when I had been a battered and sexually abused child. I also worked with a good nutritionist to totally detoxify my body. Between the mental and physical cleansing, in 6 months, I was able to get the medical profession to agree with what I already knew, that I no longer had cancer. So you see, I know from personal experience that disease can be healed if we are willing to do the work, mental and physical. And doing the work is part of learning to love ourselves. Now with AIDS, we are talking about a disease that attacks the immune system, that wonderful system in our bodies that keeps invaders out. If our immune system is weakened, then we want to build up the immune system. When the immune system is strong, it is capable of demolishing any disease. When it is weak, the slightest cold will render the body helpless. If we look back in history, we see 2 examples of epidemic diseases. In the 13th century in Europe, there was a tremendous population explosion with overcrowding, insufficient food, and stressful conditions. Non-stop rains created 2 years of famine, and in 1348, when the bubonic plague hit, the immune systems of most of the population were greatly weakened, and they called it the Black Death. This was only the first of several recurrent plagues, and by 1400, the population of Northern Europe had dropped to half of what it was a century before. In our own country, we had a raging influenza epidemic during World War I. This arrived on the heels of millions of immigrants that often came here hungry, weakened, and exhausted by their long trip, and of course health services for them were totally unavailable. Their immune systems went down to 0 in the overcrowded living conditions, and thousands of people died. Whether the disease is plague, influenza, or AIDS, not everyone succumbs to it. Only those whose mental and physical immune systems are weakened. On a physical level, I would suggest that in addition to what your doctor is doing with you, you seek the services of a good nutritionist. You could go to the health food store and seek advice, or go to the library and read a book on nutrition, or talk to a friend who understands the importance of good food in your diet and how it can rebuild your body. Whatever may be going on in our lifestyles that may be detrimental to our physical and mental health needs to be eliminated immediately. This is not a time to play around. This is not a time to stuff junk foods in our bodies. The body needs good nourishment that it can use to rebuild the cells. Good body reserves resulting from an excellent diet is important for a strong immune system. Let's give our bodies the raw materials it needs to cleanse, to strengthen, to rebuild, to make us whole. A good way to build up the mental immune system is to have peaceful, loving thoughts. Those thoughts that create self-esteem and self-worth and self-love. Releasing the past, forgiving, letting go of old guilts, making ourselves feel good. I believe there is a mental pattern for every part of the body and for every dis-ease in the body. Let's look at the mental equivalents for many of the physical symptoms of the condition called AIDS. Respiratory problems. The lungs represent the ability to take in and give out life. Lung and breathing problems indicate that on a very deep level, we feel that we do not have the right to take in life, to take up space, perhaps even to exist. Headaches come from invalidating ourselves, from making ourselves wrong, from being overly critical, from not giving ourselves the space to make mistakes while we learn the new, from not forgiving ourselves. Bleeding. The heart is representative of love, and the blood in the body is joy. When all is well, the heart lovingly pumps joy throughout the body. Blood problems indicate a lack of joy in the system. Fevers are anger expressing itself, burning up with rage. Chills are a mental contracting, a pulling in, trying to get away. Blurred vision. The eyes are the capacity to see the truth about ourselves and about life. When there are things we do not want to look at, or when we judge by false standards, our vision may begin to blur. When we say, "You are not good enough," we are also saying, "We are not good enough." And who wants to look at that? The skin represents our individuality, and any problems with the skin indicate that our individuality is being threatened on some level. When we feel not good enough, we bring things to the surface so that we can look unattractive. Choking and coughing represent the inability to express ourselves freely. How often are we afraid to declare who we are? Bruising we call the little bumps in life, small punishments for guilt. The incredible fatigue is the body's way of keeping us immobile while it uses all its strength to battle the invader. Swollen glands represent imbalance and a clogging of the life force energy. But remember, we are only dealing with thought patterns, and thoughts can be changed. I would like to talk about the genitals a bit. I seldom come across a person who was raised in a family where the genitals and their functions were called by their correct names. Remember the euphemisms your own family used. It could be as mild as "down there," to names that made you feel they were dirty and disgusting. Yes, we all grew up believing that something was not quite right between our legs. This is unfortunate because the genitals represent the most feminine part of a woman, her femininity, or the most masculine part of a man, his masculinity. When we are not comfortable with our sexuality, our masculinity, our masculine principle, then we often create problems with the genitals. I feel the sexual revolution that exploded a few years ago was a good thing. We were moving away from Victorian hypocrisy. Suddenly it was okay to have many partners, and women as well as men could have one-night stands. We began to enjoy the pleasure and freedom of our bodies in a new and open way. However, few of us thought to deal with what is called Mama's God. Whatever your mother taught you about God when you were 3 years old is still there in your subconscious mind unless you have done some conscious work to release it. Was that God an angry, avenging God? What did that God feel about sex? If we are still carrying those early guilt feelings, then we are surely going to create punishment for ourselves. And so the heterosexual population created herpes, a disease which comes back again and again and again to punish us. When we take that same idea over into the gay community, where we have all the same problems that everyone else has, plus society pointing their fingers at us and saying bad, then we create AIDS, which is a much more frightening disease and can even be fatal. Venereal disease is almost always sexual guilt, a feeling, often subconscious, that it is not right to express ourselves sexually. A carrier with a venereal disease can have many partners, but only those whose mental and physical immune systems are weak will catch it. Just for a moment, try to visualize the vastness of this universe. It is beyond our comprehension. Even our top scientists, with their latest equipment, cannot measure its size. And within this universe, there are many galaxies. And in one of these galaxies, in a far-off corner, there is a minor sun. And around this sun revolves a few pinpoints, one of which is called planet Earth. Now I find it hard to believe that the vast, incredible intelligence that created this entire universe is only an old man sitting on a cloud above the planet Earth watching my genitals. And yet many of us were taught this concept as a child. It is vital that we release foolish, outmoded ideas that do not support us and nourish us. Let us consciously choose to release that belief. Say with me now, I no longer choose to believe that nonsense, and I rejoice in my own sexuality. Our concept of God must support us, not negate us. We are already perfect. In the heterosexual society, many women dread growing old because of the belief systems we have created around the glory of youth. It is not so difficult for the men, for they become distinguished with a bit of gray hair. The older man often gets respect. People may even look up to him. Not so for gay men. They have created a culture that places tremendous emphasis on youth and beauty. While everyone is young to start with, only a few fit their standards of beauty. So much emphasis is placed on the physical appearance of the body that the feelings that go on inside have been totally disregarded. If we are not young and beautiful, it's almost as though we don't count. We don't count. It's only the body that counts. This way of thinking is a disgrace to the whole culture. It's another way of saying gay is not good enough. Because of the way gays treat other gays, the experience of getting old for many gay men is something to dread. It's almost better to die than to get old, and we have created a disease that kills. Too often gay men feel that when they get older they will be useless and unwanted. It's almost better to destroy themselves first, and so many of us have created a destructive lifestyle. Some of the concepts and attitudes that go on in the gay lifestyle, the meat rack, the constant judging, etc., are monstrous, and we have created a monstrous disease. Think for a moment of all the things gays do to each other that are hurtful. How many do you do? This sort of behavior can only create guilt on a very deep level, no matter how much we may camp. Men traditionally have always had more sexual partners than women, and when men get together, of course there will be a great deal more sex, and that's all fine and good. The bathhouses fulfill a wonderful need, unless we are using our sexuality for the wrong reasons, reasons that are not fulfilling to us, having to have lots of partners for self-esteem rather than for the joy of it. Camping, which can be such fun, can also be extremely destructive to both the givers and the recipients. It's a way of avoiding closeness and intimacy. We are real people. We are not plastic dolls that can be manipulated at whim. It is time for all of us to go back to the golden rule, to treat others the way we really want to be treated, to give to them the compassion, understanding, love, and support that we want. Because what we give out is what comes back to us. I do not believe that there is anything wrong with having several partners, and the use of some recreational drugs and alcohol on an occasional basis is fine. But if we are getting bombed out of our heads every night, and if we need several partners a night just to prove our self-worth, then we are not coming from a nourishing space, and we need to make some mental changes. In no way am I trying to create more guilt for anyone. I am just trying to help us look at what needs to be released. This is a time for healing, for making whole, not for condemnation. I believe it is our birthright to be totally healthy and totally fulfilled in every area of our lives. Let us claim and accept our birthright now. This planet needs a lot of healing at this point in time and space. What are you doing to help? What is your purpose in this life? What do you have to live for? Gays do not have family obligations to hinder them. We are free to devote our lives to healing. It looks like the place we are meant to begin is within our own community. How can we help the planet? What is our contribution? What can we do to make life better for everyone? Of course, each person has to answer that individually. On the other side of this tape, we are going to do a deep relaxation and begin to create new thought patterns that will be helpful in dissolving any disease in the body and to build perfect, vibrant health. I would suggest that you play the other side of this tape every night for at least a month. Let yourself go to sleep with it on. Let these ideas permeate your consciousness. You can also play it during the day. You don't even have to listen to it. Just let it run. Your subconscious mind hears everything. You are worth it. Take the time to be good to yourself. Express the growing love you have for yourself by lovingly taking care of the miracle you call your body. Your body. Your body.